All right, let's take a closer look at the Minnesota Vikings. We are at camp with them today in the NFC North, plus 250. Not the favorites. The Green Bay Packers are the favorites. Close to even money to make the playoffs this season, plus 110 to make it, minus 130 to miss the postseason. Vikings missed it last season, going 7-9. Let's go out to Pete Prisco and Bryant McFadden from Vikings camp just outside the Twin Cities, and let's start with their bell cow back, fellas. Dalvin Cook, plus 600 to lead the league in rushing this season. Now, Derrick Henry beat him by about 500 yards last season. He's going for his third straight rushing title. But Dalvin Cook missed a couple of games last season. You get that 17th game this season. BMac, is that something you want to sprinkle there at 6-1?
No question. It depends on how lucky you feel. You know what I mean? When you look at the money standpoint, you have to like the odds because of the player you're putting your money on. You talked about the injury concerns. Last year, he missed a few ball games. So if he's healthy, along with the extra ball game, along with the pass catches that he has the luxury of having surrounding him in that offense, it's hard for a defense to be able to devote extra men in the box when you have Justin Jefferson, when you have Adam Thielen, Irv Smith outside catching passes, running routes. So I love Dalvin Cook being able to get over this, win this prop bet because it is his offense. They will run the offense through Dalvin Cook. And because of the type of talent he is, Pete, no question, I think he can definitely lead the league in rushing.
Yeah, I think the odds are good here.
Yeah.
And I like the odds. If it was even money or 2-1, maybe not. But at 6-1, I think it's a great bet because he is capable of leading the league in rushing. And last year, you mentioned, he missed the last game because his father passed away. He missed the game because of injury, a game and a half because of injury. Yep. He stays healthy. He has a legitimate chance to lead the league in rushing. So for those odds, I really like this. 6-1, I'll take Dalvin Cook.
Derrick Henry at 4-1 to win his third consecutive rushing title. Let's move on to who Pete Prisco says is going to end up being the #1 wide receiver in all of football following this upcoming season, Justin Jefferson. Pete, his over-under for receiving yards is just over 1,300. It's 1,300 and a hook. He had 1,400 his rookie season, fourth in the NFL.
Yeah, this number looks funny to me, and it just doesn't look right. He had 1,400 as a rookie wide receiver, and I know their defense was awful, and they threw it a little bit more than what Mike Zimmer would like, but when you look at this offense, it's going to be better with him because he's more acclimated to the NFL game. He understands coverages. He's going to be a better route runner than he was a year ago. This is an easy over. He's got an extra game. This number will be at near 1,600, 1,700. That's how much of an impact I think he's going to have on this offense.
Yeah, Pete, I'm right there with you. I think when you look at the start from Justin Jefferson a year ago as a rookie, he had a few games where he had slow starts. He really wasn't impactful. And then when he understood the offense, understood how to attack the defensive backs, you saw him flourish. I expect to see Justin Jefferson take off this season similar to how he left last season. And I think if that's the case, understanding the talent that is surrounding him and his skill set, yes, this is a funny number. But because of it, I definitely believe Justin Jefferson can get over this receiving yard total.
15-1 to lead the NFL in receiving yards. Pete, you say he's going to be the top receiver in all of football following this season. Is 15-1 to lead the NFL in receiving yards a good bet as well?
Book it. Yes, it's a great bet. I mean, at 15-1, that's a fantastic. Those are fantastic odds for a guy who, like I said, he will be the #1 receiver in the NFL coming out of 2021 season. And I go back to BMac made mention of it, his route running. He was good route running last year. He will be great this year. He is a special player. They only come around once in a lifetime. He is the next great receiver in the National Football League.
All right, let's talk team-centric now. In the Vikings' Week 1 opponent, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Minnesota on the road, favored by 3.5. The over-under's at 48. BMac, where are you leaning right now?
I'm leaning with the Minnesota Vikings, and here's why. You talked about Joe Burrow. Remember, he's coming off a season-ending injury from last year. So I don't expect to see the best Joe Burrow Week 1. I think Cincinnati will be a much competitive team. They will be a more competitive team, much improved from what we saw last year. But if you're going to get the Cincinnati Bengals, you better get them early on in this upcoming season because by the month of November, December, they will be a stuffed, competitive team to go against. So me personally, traveling to Cincinnati, laying 3.5, the experience that the Minnesota Vikings have on their side will play a huge factor in them covering that 3.5 points.
You don't have a cousin on the Bengals, do you?
No, I don't.
That's why you picked the Vikings then.
Let's see who you're picking.
I know. I get why you did it. I'm doing the same thing. I don't have any relatives on the Vikings, and I'm picking the Vikings. And the reason being, I think when you look at this team, last year they were 7-9, and the defense was awful. I mean, it was terrible. They had 23 sacks as a team. For Mike Zimmer, that's embarrassing. I talked to him about it today. They went from 61 to 23. They will amp that up again. They get their big run stuffers in the middle in Tomlinson and Michael Pierce. They get Barr healthy with Kendricks, and Patrick Peterson will help the cornerback position. This will be a much improved defense, which is why they go on the road. And you mentioned Joe Burrow's been struggling with the injury. I think the Vikings go in there and win that by a touchdown. Lay the points, 3.5 Vikings in the opener.
Okay, both like the Vikings to get off to a good start. Let's look at the full season win total, which is at 8.5, minus 110 for over and under. Bryant, do they go over the 8.5 in those 17 games?
This might be the easiest prop bet we've discussed so far today. I'm going over. Here's why. There's an extra ball game for you to be able to get to this over. Number two, I do believe the Vikings will win their division. I think they're the best team in the division solely because of their defense. Pete talked about the injuries that we saw last year, how inconsistent they were. They couldn't rush the passer. If all of their studs are healthy on the defensive side, this could be easily a top 5 unit in the National Football League. And then when you transition to the balance on the offensive end, if Kirk Cousins play like Captain Kirk, you better believe that offense will be unstoppable because of the ability to run the football, their ability to run the football and throwing the football. So I easily go over 8.5, and like I said, I think they will win the division.
Win the division. Win
Yes.
the division.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers is on the line for you. He wants to say hello.
I said what I said, Pete.
They're not going to win the division. They're going to be a playoff team. I agree with you 100%. They will be a playoff team, but they are not winning the division as long as Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are the best team in the division, and I do think the Vikings are going to be improved. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to be a better team. They will be a playoff team. They will go over 8.5. They will get to 11, 10 or 11, but the Packers are going to win 13.
I said what I said.
Well,
the Packers won the division the last 2 years with ease. Not this year. I said what I said.
clip and save, and just remember, he's got a cousin on this team.
It has nothing to do with who I have on the Vikings.
We're going to give you more
I
time
said what
on
I
this
said.
because we've got the betting numbers for the division and playoffs as well that we want to get to, and they are close to even money to make the postseason. But Bryant, you said that you like this team to win the division. Pete, even though you think they're going to go over and they're going to go to the playoffs, that it's not going to happen. Discuss that a little more, guys.
Well, when you look at the division right now, it's safe to say it's a two-team division in the NFC North between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. We don't know exactly what will happen with Chicago, Detroit. Inconsistent. They should be a better team, but they're not a team that will contend for a divisional title. But when you look at both teams, the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers, you know I'm a bit biased when it comes to defense. I side with the Minnesota Vikings if you were to compare the Green Bay Packers defense to the Minnesota Vikings defense. We're both high on the Vikings defense. Now, granted, when you talk offensively, you start and stop that conversation with Aaron Rodgers. You can't compare any other quarterback to Aaron Rodgers outside of maybe Pat Mahomes. He is that type of talent. But if you compare everything else on the offensive end, you will take the Minnesota Vikings. Running back, pass catchers, not pass catcher, pass catchers with an S. You're taking the Minnesota Vikings. And I can tell you this thing about the Minnesota Vikings, Pete, and you do your research, you're a personnel guy. Their offensive line will be a force to be reckoned with this season as well. And especially if they can get Duracell healthy and eventually get into the lineup, this will be a much improved unit. So number 12 is number 12. But everything else on the offensive end, you side with the Minnesota Vikings. Let's hear what you got to say.
I'm a big believer in Christian Darrisaw. He's not healthy. It's going to take him.
He's going to get
It's
healthy
going to
at
take him
some
a
point in
while to
time.
get going, though. It's going to take him a little while to get acclimated to the NFL game, and I'm a big believer in him. I do think the line will be better when they get guys healthy, but it's Aaron Rodgers versus Kirk Cousins. It's an easy decision. As much as Kirk Cousins played well last year, it's Aaron Rodgers versus Kirk Cousins, and that's what it comes down to.
It's
You
not.
can talk defense all you want, and by the way, the defense was atrocious in Minnesota last year. I know it's a different group. They got a lot more players back, a lot more of their guys back healthy. They will be better defense than the Green Bay Packers, but Aaron Rodgers is ultimately what will decide.
No,
if
it's
the
not.
Packers
It's not
win it
about
again.
Kirk Cousins. It's not about Aaron Rodgers. It's not. It's about the team in totality, the entire offense. Dalvin Cook is a bad man. Justin Jefferson is a bad man. Adam Thielen is a bad man. They have so many bad men on that offense that can really tear you apart. And you just said Justin Jefferson would be the #1 wide receiver in the National Football League. You also just said, Pete Prisco, Dalvin Cook would lead the league in rushing. So if he's leading the league in rushing, he could, but you like him to do so. Correct? Did you say that, Pete?
I would take that odds, yes.
Yes. So if Dalvin Cook is leading the league in rushing, if Justin Jefferson is basically the #1 wide receiver in the National Football League, then Captain Kirk Cousins has to be playing some lights-out football for those things to happen, and you're still taking the Green Bay Packers?
Well, Devontae Adams was the #1 wide receiver in the league last year. Aaron Jones is a Pro Bowler who put up huge numbers and will put up huge numbers again. They have a big back in Dillon. Their offensive line will be better. No, you're wrong. You're entitled to your wrong opinion. Aaron Rodgers is the great equalizer.
I'm just
great quarterbacks cure your ills. Bad ones expose them. I'm not saying
I like that. That sounds real good and everything like that. But we know it's not just about the quarterbacks because
always about the quarterback.
No. Because we just saw the Super Bowl when Pat Mahomes, if you were talking about just the quarterback, he has to have help. He has to have help.
Can't throw from your back.
I'm just saying, I made my point. May I rest my case? And I think I just proved you wrong. And I agree with you earlier today. I shouldn't have did that because now you started to smell yourself. I had to put you right back in your place.
You know what, BMac? We know you're going to get invited to all the family functions now for that one. I can tell you that right now.
Great discussion and arguments, if you will, between Bryant McFadden and Pete Prisco. Bryant says Vikings will win the division. Pete says the Packers are going to win the division. But both agree that the Vikings will be in the postseason. Fellas, thank you so much. Reporting from Vikings training camp just south of the Twin Cities. And BMac's going to have a special All Things Covered podcast this week with his cuz, Patrick Peterson. Download and follow the podcast today.